Hello, welcome to Tweet the Leader in You, where we speak about realistic leadership theories. On today's show, we have Dr. Heidi Weigand speaking about the importance of leadership and why it exists in today's society. Hello, Dr. Heidi. How are you?
Nice
Welcome,
to see you.
and I'm so happy that you have decided to come on the show. Well, I invited you and you accept, and so I'm pretty excited that you accepted my invitation.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it today. It'll be a great experience.
Awesome. And so today we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to be speaking about just how my leadership journey started as a student. I started way back in the Bahamas as a head boy. And I must say that being there has taught me, well, in that position has taught me how to move forward and to be an agent of change. And I'm understanding day by day, because it started from as a child and now I'm growing into being an adult, it has allowed me to think about why leaders exist today and what is their main purpose. And I spoke briefly to a colleague of mine, and we were speaking about how sometimes leaders make a negative impact by overpowering their leadership and say, oh, I'm doing leadership because I'm dictating. I'm doing leadership because I'm telling someone what to do. And basically, that's not true sometimes in leadership. Leadership, basically, to me, is about mentorship, guiding people on the way, and just being there for them and then showing them and then letting them grow, stepping back and allowing them to grow. And so, my first question to you is, why is leadership important to you as a leader?
Well, I think it's really interesting the way that you introduced it, which is you had a perspective of what leadership is, and you kind of described what leadership isn't for you. And so I think what I like most about leadership is that it's not one specific entity, it's not one specific concept. It's almost, and I have to be careful because from an academic perspective, this wouldn't be accurate, but it's like a culture. So it depends on the situation, it's adapting, it's fluid. There's certain styles and tools and techniques for one situation. And I love the flexibility of being able to work and understand how it applies in different contexts. So for me, leadership is like a playground. I can look at it in sport, I can look at it in politics, I can look at it in health, I can look at it in industry. It's great.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I'm talking about leadership as a playground because at the end of the day, you're having fun with it and you're allowing yourself to move into the direction. And speaking about your passion about leadership and youth development, how does that collide? Because you are a professor and you actually have grown and teach into your students and instill and motivate your students into being leaders of the now moment and everything. And I was one of your students in the nonprofit leadership class, and I must say that it's a great program. She was a great leader, so hence why I think it suits best to have a conversation about this type of topic that was basically designed for you to just express your thought. And so
I think, well, if you're asking me about the way I see leadership and sort of how it's grown for me, especially around youth, I think that there's two parts I would kind of comment on. First is, how did I experience leadership? And when did it really evolve for me to become something that I went, wow, I really want to get into this and understand it better. So as a leader, I come from a family that are very integrated into sports, performance, but passion with it. So you always have to love what you're doing. It's not about the end game. It is about the journey while you're there. And so I've always had leaders around me my whole life. And so it wasn't a surprise that when I went to different schools like you, I would be head this or head that, and never really thought about it. And what I started to explore as I got into my career is there's different kinds of leaders. And there are some leaders who do things for good. And there are some leaders that do things for not so good. And then there's some leaders that they're in it for themselves. But what happens is that they naturally have some things that benefit everybody else. So maybe it's a mutually beneficial situation. So I kind of wanted to understand that. But then something significant happened. I worked for Xerox. And I was down in the United States, and we went through a bankruptcy status, Chapter 11. We had some junk bond status. It was just really a difficult time, and I was head of a very big part of a marketing team. And we had to communicate out to people about how to work with clients. And at the same time, our clients are looking at us going, so let me get this straight. You want us to sign a contract for X amount of dollars and over a 5-year period, and we don't know if you're going to be in business?
Yeah.
That takes guts. That takes grit. That takes connection. And we had a leader, her name was Ann Mulcahy, and she ended up being on Obama's economic advisory team later. And she used to thank us and said, I want to thank you for what you're going to do today. I know that it's going to be very difficult. We've built the strategy, but you're the people that are on the front lines. So I started to understand the difference between leaders and the people doing some, like the frontline workers, and how she was empowering us, even though that's an overused term, by just thanking us for what it is we were going to do, thanking us for the effort that we had, the challenges we're going to encounter. I decided to go in to do my PhD and study that on a deeper level, and it turns out that it's something called doing positive leadership. That's what I've kind of coined it. And it's the act of supporting or complimenting or thanking someone. But what's kind of cool is that I started to explore in a little bit more detail, and I found out that if you actually do those behaviors, you reduce the burnout in people around you.
And I totally agree with you, and that comes to how you are defining leadership and playing the role. And it comes to my next part, that when it comes down to defining leadership, for me, I feel the definition of leadership is how you make a major impact on others and how you lead with great success. Is just a phrase that I love to use, that if your actions inspire others to dream more, to do more, you're actually doing leadership. And I must say, when you are defining leadership and when you are playing the role of leadership, do you have a different definition every moment?
Well, it's funny. One of the things, and I'll connect it back to your question about youth. I was listening to Brené Brown's podcast this morning because she's brilliant, and she was talking about her definition of leadership. It was in Daring to Lead, and so I've read the book already, but I was just re-listening to her podcast.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And one of the things she said is, leadership is about making those connections with people and helping to develop them, right? So it's in how you engage with others and then what others do. And I have absolutely committed myself, if you're asking me, my singular goal is to be a ripple, to be that disruptor and then that ripple effect where I empower others and work with others to grab onto their own leadership and their own passion and pursue it. And it doesn't matter where it is, but I have sort of studied for a long time a way to work with youth, to motivate them, to help them build the confidence and to feel that they have some empowerment and ability to change the world. And so I do it in my classroom. So it's really nice that you're recognizing that maybe you saw some of that. I've worked with youth, and when I say youth, what's youth anymore, right? Anybody can, you get somebody who's 99 years old or 104, and I watch this one beautiful woman, it's my grandmother's friend, and she's running off the bus at 104 years old and heading back to her retirement home. To me, she's inspirational because she's got youth-like qualities, even though by age we would say that she's an elder. So I think it's our role that we should be inspiring others to make change in the world and to be doing things that they're passionate about. And if we do that, I think we do kind of make the world a better place.
And I totally agree with you. In order for you to continue to move forward and continue to be a complete person, you have to actually inspire others. And I always say, when it comes down to persons who want to change the world, if you want to change the world, start with persons in front of you. If you don't start with the persons in front of you, like you have persons from Africa, persons from Gambia, persons from China, persons from India, like you have a lot of persons within your network who might be your friends or who might be persons within your organization, and you can make an impact in their lives versus saying, oh, I want to go global and everything. And that's why you exist today. That's why leaders exist today. Make an impact today. Make an impact right now in the moment of where you are and into who you're allowing into your space. And it comes down to my last question is, when it comes down to leadership, do you have a select group, or do you just mentor anyone or talk to leadership to anyone?
Yeah, funny question. That's a question that I have to think about a little bit, because I think the answer, and I say think because I think it's always evolving.
Yeah.
I think the answer is that I'm naturally drawn to some people because I'll find that similarity. But that's the time when, and I say this to everybody, when you feel really connected and you feel something that's synergistic, that's the time to also say, who's not in my circle, who can grow this so much more than I can? Because if we're all the same, then we're going to do an amazing job, but in a very small space. So how can I connect with others? And so it sometimes has to be very intentional to seek out or to stay open, so that, one, you attract people in who are so different and so diverse and so beautiful in everything, in the way they think, the way they look, the way they act, the way they breathe. And that, to me, is the most rewarding part of the work I do. I love diverse. I love people who are just different thinking than I am. Now, when I'm in a hurry, sometimes when somebody doesn't think the same as me, it can be a real thorn. But the reality is it's so, the best decisions have come from people who have challenged me. And some of my closest friends have been the ones who have challenged me, and they know who they are if they were watching this.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to embrace these diverse opinions. You have to embrace that everyone has something to offer. So I'll leave it with this comment on this particular comment. But I was taught by my family, especially my father and my mother, that there is no person in this world who is better than me. But there's no person in this world that is lesser than me.
That's right.
And so we all bring in a unique value, unique thinking, unique ways of doing. And if we can all work together and connect, wouldn't that be amazing? And I know the world doesn't work that way, and there's an awful lot of messiness right now.
Totally.
But you can intentionally spend your time having an impact that will cause a ripple that is going to change things.
I totally agree, because especially with family members, they make a major impact into your life, and I understand that. Of course, your family is important to you, and so family is important to me, and it actually trains me on how I can be a leader. And I always try to get feedback from my mother, especially because she's a person of great leadership, and she gives me all her best critics and everything, and she gives me the feedback, and I totally don't take it as a bad feedback. I always take it as a humbling feedback in order to be a better leader of society. And I try my best to reflect as a leader and making sure that I'm taking persons on the journey. And I must say that you, as a leader, you're taking people on the journey, and I'm sharing with them a lot of what you've experienced as a leader, and what you are encouraging them to be the leaders of today. And yes, of course, I totally agree that it's hard to work together as leaders and everything, but if we can communicate as leaders in order to move forward, I think that it makes a great difference.
There's one thing, is surrounding yourself with amazing people is great. I'm blessed to have an amazing other half who challenges me, and I love it. And then I have 4 children and grandchildren, but they're what they teach me every day, and what they go through and what they're doing is a part of my journey as a leader as well. And so I just, you just have to look and turn sideways and, open your eyes, and there's all sorts of amazing influences around you every day.
Totally. Totally. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And I want to encourage folks out there who are going to be listening to this podcast, think about what you're doing as a leader. Make a difference. Ask questions. Consult with other people and make a difference. That's why you exist. Have a great day.